great to have you for this evening. We're so blessed to have Deacon Harold Burger-Sivers with us. This is his third time to our parish. He's really one of our favorites. Usually we see Deacon Harold on television, WTN, or we listen to him on a podcast, or some of our adult education, our confirmation kids see him on Chosen. But we're so blessed to have him in person. It's a very exciting evening. The talk he's given is really one of my favorites, maybe my favorite of his talks. So powerful. The conversion story he's going to talk about. He's one of the most sought out speakers in the church today. Graduate of Notre Dame. Has a bachelor's of art degree in economics and business administration. And then he's also a graduate of the University of Dallas, with a master's of theological studies. Benedictine oblate. He was in the Benedictines for a few years, discerning, and then became the Third Order Benedictine. He's married to his lovely wife Colleen. They have 4 beautiful children. They live in Portland, Oregon, where Deacon Harold is signed to Immaculate Heart Catholic Church. And so, it's my great joy to introduce Deacon Harold Burger-Sivers.
You know, it's fortuitous that this talk is happening today, and you'll find out in a little bit why that is. I was born in Barbados in the West Indies. We're first generation to come to the United States. No one in my family has been to the United States before we moved here. My father was a professional singer and songwriter, a touring musician, and my mother was a cardiac care nurse. When we came to the United States, in fact, it made the second page of our national newspaper because of my father, but my father was not with us. I still have the picture to this day. It's my mom, and she's holding my hand. I'm almost about 2.5, almost 3 years old. And then she's holding my little brother in her arms, and then her mom, my grandma, standing behind her. It says, Sivers family goes to the United States. But my dad's picture was missing. It took about a year, but he eventually did join our family in New Jersey, is where I grew up. And when he came, we wished that he hadn't. Because we learned quickly my father loved 3 things in life: womenizing, alcohol, and cigarettes. My father has 15 other children from other women, besides the 4 of us with my mom that we know of. We know they exist because of social media. They've been reaching out to us and stuff. My cousin says there's more, but who knows? My father also drank. If you come from a household where alcohol is an issue, I don't even have to tell you about the hurtful and the painful and the embarrassing moments when you live in a house like that, where you wish to God you lived in your friend's house rather than have to go home to your own house. My father was not a man of faith, not baptized, never went to church. The only time I ever heard him use God's name was as a curse. And when they finally got divorced, there's a big surprise, we were relieved. But again, as I mentioned in my homily, it still affected the 4 of us very differently. But I still maintained a respectful relationship with my father until I joined the Benedictines. Out of respect, I went to his apartment to let him know what I thought I would be doing for the rest of my life. And our conversation went something like this: "You're gonna do what? You're the first person in our family ever to go to college. You go to Notre Dame." He used to brag to all his friends, "My son goes to Notre Dame." You get an economics and business degree, and now you're going to waste your life living with a bunch of men? What's wrong with you? What am I supposed to tell my friends? for 18 years. As far as I was concerned, on that day, he died. I hated my father. And I don't say that lightly. I truly hated the man. So much so that when my kids started going to school, it was Grandparents' Day. And they were asking, they went to my wife and said, "Where's our grandfather?" And my wife had to tell them that her father died when she was a freshman in college. She goes, your daddy didn't even meet my dad. Then they came to me, "Where's our grandfather?" "He's dead." I looked my kids in the face and told them that grandfather was dead. That's much I hated him. My mom gets sick. I'm in a monastery. I'm actually enjoying it. My mom has a massive heart attack and almost dies. She's in the hospital on machines. My siblings call me, "What do we do?" Because when my dad left, I had helped raise the family with my mom. What do we do? I said, "I'm a monk. I can't just leave and go. You guys have to take care of this." But seeing there's no other way to Abbott let me out of the monastery for 3 months until my mom got back on her feet. Month 2, I went to a wedding of some Notre Dame friends. In fact, one of my dorm mates, where's Kevin? It's back there. It was Ed Hanairo's wedding, right? And so I went to Ed and Lisa's wedding, and that's where I met my future wife. So, didn't go back to the monastery. But my wife is from Oregon. When I met her, she was living in Connecticut, but she decided, as we were dating, she decided she wants to move to Oregon. And I don't know anything about Oregon. I don't know anything about the West Coast. I'm from Jersey. As far as we're concerned, Philadelphia is the West Coast. So she leaves, and I'm now working as a detective. So I'm working a drug case. I'm undercover. I can't leave. So she goes out there, which is good because that gave me some time to think about what I wanted to do. And so I decided I'm going to go out there and join her. And I remember packing up my car, getting ready to drive across country. And my mom says, "Son, before you leave this house, there's only one thing I want you to do." "Yes, Mommy. I want you to pray for your father." Oh, it's the only time in my life I remember looking my mother dead in her face and telling her, "No." And she just said, "I don't think you heard me, son." I said, "The only thing I want you to do when you leave this house is pray for your father." Okay, right? So I ended up praying for my dad. But it was a thing where I would do my prayer and I'd just throw his name in at the end. Didn't mean it. I only did it because I promised my mother I would. But as the years went by, I said, "You know what? I'm going to have to stand before God. We're going to go through the commandments, and we're going to get to number 4. I need something to say." So I started, I sent a wedding invitation to my dad, no response. Birth announcements for each of the kids, no response. My sister's wedding, no response. I walked her down the aisle. Even invitation to ordination, even though the man never stepped a foot in the church, no response. And I was fine with that, because at least I could tell Jesus I tried. Now fast forward to year 17 of our estrangement. My first series starts to air on EWTN called Behold the Man. It starts to air internationally. It airs in my home country of Barbados. Someone sees me, calls my dad and says, "Isn't that your son on TV?" My son. So he flips down the boom. Bam, there I am. Hadn't seen me for 17 years. So he catches the last 10 minutes, and here I'm talking about what it means to be an authentically Catholic man. He watches the last 10 minutes. He goes, "Okay, I want to catch the whole thing." So he waits a week, and the problem is he got the time wrong. So instead of watching me, he's watching an old nun with a Bible on her lap. That last second, he's watching Mother Angelica. musician. He did not know how EWTN worked. He said, "Who's that lady? Where's my son?" Then he thought, "Oh, she must be the opening act." He thought, this lady's going to talk for a while, then my son is going to come out. I never did, of course, but he watched the entire hour. Now, later I would ask, I said, "Pop, when you saw that I wasn't going to make an appearance, why'd you keep watching?" And he said, "She just made so much sense." Of all the people to reach my gap, Mother Angelica, what? That's nuts! That's nuts! But he kept watching. And he kept watching the channel. He started watching other programming. So a year goes by. I still have not heard from him. Year 18. I'm driving. I'm a police chief now at the University of Portland. I'm driving home. My cell phone rings. I don't recognize the number, but it's a New Jersey area code. I'm like, oh. Maybe it's a friend of mine. "Hello? Son?" "Pop, almost crashed the car." I pull over to the side of the road, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And he starts talking and talking, and when he hung up the phone, my phone said 31:12. 31 minutes and 12 seconds. The longest conversation I've ever had with my father. And almost the entire time, he's telling me about his relationship with Jesus. Now, you thought I would have been happy. Oh, I was livid. I remember literally hanging up the phone and then yelling to myself in the car, "Who the hell does he think he is? To call me after 18 years to tell me about Jesus? He doesn't know Jesus. I know Jesus. I'm the one on EWTN. All that man knows how to do is destroy our family." So I said, "Lord, if this is from you, you're going to have to show me. Because I don't believe anything that comes out of that lying pig's mouth." And I learned that now you got to be careful what you ask for. About 2 weeks later, I received an invitation to speak in my home state of New Jersey at a parish 1 mile from my father's apartment. I took it as a sign. So whenever I went back to Jersey, I always stayed with my brother, the one that was born in Barbados with me. He's never been married. And so I always stayed with him. He arranged for me to see Pop. So I'm a little nervous. I haven't seen the man for almost 20 years. And when he walks in, I was shocked at his appearance. He's a big guy like me, but he lost more than half of his body weight because he had prostate cancer. So he had big hair, patches of hair missing. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, that guy looks like my dad. He says, "Hello, son. It's good to see you." I said, "Oh, okay." And so once I got over the shock, the next thing I wanted to hear was what? "I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry for the hell I put you and your mother and your siblings through for all those years. I'm sorry that I couldn't come to your graduation because I was drunk. I'm sorry I couldn't come to your one-year wrestling matches even though you're undefeated your senior year. I couldn't come to one-year matches because I was sleeping around with other women. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." That's what I wanted to hear. You know how many times I was on that mat and the ref raised my hand, which was all the time? And I looked around that gym. Did he make it tonight? And I didn't hear that. All he wanted to talk about was the person that he is now. The Lord taught me a huge lesson that night. The Lord said, "Look, you know what happened back then. And he knows what happened back then. There's nothing either one of you can do to change that. Deal with the person I have in front of you now." So my father says, "Hey, son, I'm still writing songs. You want to hear one?" Oh, here we go. Here we go. So my father, the type of music that he wrote and performed is called soca. It's kind of like the Caribbean version of R&B. For example, we have a song called Hazel. Hazel, darling, woman, you excite me. I don't know where or how you got that body. Stuff like that. Oh, by the way, my mother's name is Eleanor. So I'm thinking, okay, Pop, whatever. So he puts on a CD, music track, and the music starts playing, and then he starts to sing. Here are some of the lyrics. Oh Lord, sweet Jesus, have mercy on me. My eyes were wide open, yet I failed to see. Dear Lord, I beg you, have mercy. Please, have mercy on me. I am so sorry. Lord, forgive me. Dear Lord, I beg you, have mercy. Now I'm thinking to myself, you can't fake that. So when he finished singing, I don't know what possessed me to do this. I walked up in the man's face, and I said to him, I'm going to ask you a question right now. If you've loved me even once as your son, don't lie to me. If you're going to lie, then say nothing. What is all this talk about Jesus?